Hi, I'm your host, Jurgen Strauss from Innova.buzz, and I'm really excited to welcome today from Austin, Texas, Mark Wonderlin, who's the visionary founder and CEO of Mosaic Media Films. So, Mark's more than just a filmmaker, he's an innovator who pioneered digital SLR, single lens reflex, for those of you that don't know the photography terminology. Digital SLR filmmaking and transformed his passion into a thriving business that's at the forefront of video marketing. So, Mark, welcome to the Innova.buzz podcast. It's a privilege to have you as my guest.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. Privileged to be here.
Now, I'm eager to delve deep into how you blend storytelling. We were talking about storytelling just a moment ago before we started recording, with strategic marketing and with building that into videos. But before we do that, Mark, what's the impact you aim to make in the world with your work today?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we look at every video project, we look at it more through the lens of who is the person that is going to watch this video? What is the product or service that we're promoting that's going to positively affect their life? And when we frame it that way, it helps us kind of live in the life of that person and the overall impact that we're going to have. If there's some business that's really struggling with a problem and there is a solution to that, whether it's a product or a service that completely transforms their business and the people in that business have been transformed, we've done our job and we've had success. And that's the impact that we're looking for doing with the work that we do, is ultimately impacting the people that are watching the videos and in a transformational way with their life, whether it's through their personal life or through business.
Excellent. I love that. There's so much that kind of resonates with me there in terms of the marketing process that we go through, which is really starting by understanding who the ideal customer is. So who's going to be watching the video in this case, and then what's the transformation you're promising and that they'll achieve by using your product or service.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with we touched on storytelling. You emphasize storytelling quite a lot in your video work. And why is storytelling so important? And assuming we know that it is, how can we craft a really good story that can transform a simple video into kind of a powerful marketing tool that really captures the attention, not just the attention, but kind of connects with that ideal client in a way that they'll want to at least start a conversation with the business.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the biggest fundamental principles that we try to follow is really understanding the viewer and the conversation that they're already having in their mind and what problem they're looking to solve. So, a lot of times customers will come to us and they'll say, "We want you to create a story about us." And I kind of have to reframe it for them and say, it's not really about you, it's about the customer. And really, what we're doing is we're articulating in the structure, the way that we create the story, is what is the challenge that that customer has? What motivated them to look at the product or do a search for the service? And what is the story that they have in their mind of what they want their life to look like? And how can that client that we're working with help change that story, help guide them through that process, and help make things easier for them and help fulfill that story that they're looking to do in their mind? Because everyone is looking for transformation. If you look at it just from a marketing perspective, right? Like, let's say you're actively seeking out marketing services. So the transformation someone is looking for is, I need more of this so I can grow my business. And by growing my business, I'll be able to hire more people. I'll be able to increase people's salaries. I'll be able to reach my dreams and aspirations and so on. That's the story that they have in their mind. And that's
Mm.
really the fundamental principle of telling a really good story, is focusing more on the viewer and how they want to, what the transformation they're looking for, rather than the company themselves rattling off accolades.
Yeah, yeah, that's fantastic. Well, one of the things, and I think I'd love to get your view on this, because as you were mentioning that, I was thinking of some of the experiences I've had recently with things that I've been looking for, challenges that I've faced. And I wonder if there's a product or a service online that can help me deal with that challenge. And I do a search, and quite often video comes up there, and I watch a video, Now, I noticed that in the financial sector in particular, there's a
Mhm.
lot of videos come up. They show the business owner, and I guess this is sort of it's more about the business, but they show them on a yacht with surrounded by bikini-clad, beautiful girls and sun shining, the ocean's around. It's sort of a beautiful scene, and kind of the subtle message, I guess, is you too can have this
Mhm.
level of or this lifestyle, or it might be a red Ferrari parked in the driveway of a fancy palace. um, it is that kind of to me that seems fake. Um, is that more about the business, or what's your take on that kind of approach?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think we've ever done a video that was that blatant. Most of the, the companies we're working with like home builders, tech companies, local
Mm,
service companies. Uh, so like that is just a blatant, visual for people to be like they're selling the lifestyle, right? A lot of
mm,
this type of imagery is done by internet marketers that typically are selling, this lifestyle of working from home, in your sweatpants, with no list, no leads, no connections, and no experience. And then 3 months later, you just turn this button and you're driving a Ferrari and you're living
yeah.
on a beach somewhere. And it's very deceptive marketing tactics, in my personal opinion. What we're trying to do in the stuff that we're doing is we're just trying to articulate what is the ideal scenario that people want to solve that problem. And in the internet marketing space, they're trying to solve the problem of, are you working too much? You feel this. We're working with home builders, tech companies, so we're really trying to get into the mindset of like, for a home builder, for instance, making that purchase is one of the hardest decisions that you're going to make. So
Mm,
making a decision with the right builder that's going to craft a home in a way where you feel like this home is where my forever home, like this is where I want to come home to every day. This is what I've aspired to live in and, have my children grow up in. That is like the visuals that we're trying to illustrate to them and explain the process as well throughout that video. That's more of our approach with it.
yeah, yeah. I like the style of explaining the process and yeah. So this is what you can expect if you work with us. So
Yeah.
in terms of some of the key elements that make a video successful, what would you say to that?
I'd say a lot of it is contingent on the brand and the style and approach. So a couple key elements is number one, like the hook, right? So there's something that's got to be in the beginning to kind of hook them right away, whether it's a powerful statement, a compelling visual, or something that's going to grab their attention. So that's a really compelling thing right away. The other thing that's important is kind of, we like to call it engage, educate, and convert. So that first part, engage, is that
Mm,
hook component. The educate part is really understanding where they're at right now. And that's addressing the problem or pain that they're facing and acknowledging, like, we understand you, in the instance of the home builder, it's like, we understand that this is one of the hardest decisions that you're going to make. And we want to make sure that you're making the right one and so on. And then really explaining the other part is, what is the solution? What is the unique thing that company does that's going to really provide that transformational change that person's looking for? And that educational component of, what does the process look like? Is it going to be easy? Try to dispel all of the things that they're thinking in their mind. Any product or service, you're going to have types of objections. It's too much. It's going to take too much time. I don't know if it's going to work. All these other things. So addressing that throughout the video is a core component as well. So the hook is important, providing some level of education, explaining how it works, overcoming objections, and really, again, highlighting what life looks like when you work with them. What are the expectations? And a good way of doing this is not necessarily, like we talked about earlier, selling like the Ferraris and the cruise ships. It's really hearing from other people in an authentic way. And
mm,
usually the way that we incorporate a testimonial in, let's say, a brand story video, is we frame it in the form of an objection. So again, we're trying to anticipate the person watching this, what are they thinking? What are they feeling? Right? Are they concerned about price? Are they concerned about time? Are they concerned about the effort that they have to put in? What is an objection that they would have? And then do we have a customer that you've worked with that maybe had a similar or the same objection and address it that way? So it would be something, this is the way it usually sounds, is I was worried that it was going to take so long and I was going to have to dedicate 2 years in building this house. But I was astonished. They actually got it on time and on budget, and it was done, in 15 months. And, my family and I have been ecstatic to live here, and we were able to celebrate Christmas, which we all hope to do in the new home. So that's
Mm.
really, articulating that objection turns success.
Yeah, yeah, and it's done in a way that kind of is emotionally engaging as well. Because if I'm the person looking to buy a home or build a home, I first of all, it is probably addressing one of my concerns.
Yeah.
Secondly, it's speaking to me at the level of this is a person that's gone through the experience that I'm looking to go through right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just so great for social proof. Testimonials are like one of the most powerful videos that you can do outside of like your main brand story video, because they're authentic, they social proof, they overcome objections. And people have a tendency of like, if you don't know someone in your own network, you go to the crowd, which is like, what
Mm.
are people that have had this experience before, what are they saying? That's why reviews are so powerful. Reviews and
Yeah.
video testimonials are even more powerful, just because you can see the level of authenticity in their voice and in their story, opposed to just the written word.
Mm. Yeah, that's true. And I was reflecting on this yesterday, in fact, because I was reading some reviews on one of these things that I was researching.
Hmm.
I tend to read a lot of reviews, and there are quite a few negative reviews on this one particular product I was looking at. And what I like to do, I like to seek out the negative reviews and then find out, okay, what specifically, I mean, it's kind of bad that they've given a 1 out of 5 stars for this product, but what is it that actually made them unhappy? So I
Hmm.
really want to know. And in the past, the example I often give in the past, when I've booked Airbnbs, there's been negative reviews, and there have been things that, like it didn't have a Wi-Fi, or
Yeah.
it didn't have air conditioning. Now,
Hmm.
if the air conditioning is a really good one, because if I'm going in the middle of winter into some um, Airbnb for a week's getaway, then I don't need air conditioning.
Yeah.
It's important that there's heating there if it's going to be really cold. But air
Right.
conditioning, if they've given a bad review because of air conditioning, well, then it doesn't matter. Now, it's interesting with video, those bad reviews, people won't go on video with if they're unhappy, right? Or is that, am I wrong there? Is it just people are not posting their videos of bad reviews?
Not it all depends on how the video is being posted. When we're doing it, we're typically not getting the bad reviews, because we're talking with
Hmm.
clients that had a good experience, maybe are reluctant
Yeah,
to purchase, but overall they're success stories more than anything. They're almost like case studies where they're
case
showing the
studies. Yeah.
success. Typically when you get the bad reviews, it has to be done from like a third party site, and not through the company itself. So like that's why like Amazon, it's all about the customer and less about the
Hmm.
business. So that's why you get a good mixture of like highs, good reviews, bad reviews. Same thing with like Yelp or Airbnb.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. One of the things that I'm curious about, because you've talked quite a bit of meeting the customer where they're at and understanding their journey and making that connection, and part of that is kind of jumping into the customer journey where they are. Now, once the purchase decisions has been made, and building a house is a really good example, because there's
Mhm.
a hell of a lot that happens after you've made the purchase decision and you've put some money on the table and got some skin in the game. What are some good examples of creative and good use of videos that really elevate the customer experience after that purchase decision has been made?
Yeah, absolutely. So typically, even before the purchase decision with video, you have to first foundationally make a good decision on what types of videos you want and how you're going to leverage them. So I usually like to start with the end in mind. So a lot of people will come to us and they'll already have an idea. And then I'll kind of like back up a little bit and be like, well, what is the goal of the video? What are you doing for marketing? What's working? What's not working? And then we can kind of develop a video or series of videos that will work well. So, for instance, if you're going to market on social media, the strategy is going to be totally different in the style of video, in the length of video, in the format of video, in relation to we're driving most of our traffic through pay per click, and they're comparing us and usually three or four other people. So, the style, type, and format of the video is going to be totally different. So,
Mm,
once we've established that criteria, then we can kind of start the creative process in a little bit more greater detail through like planning, script writing, storyboarding, casting, location scouting. You know, that's an extreme case. But that's typically what happens on the front end of the before we do the filming, which is called the pre-production. Then we have the actual filming component, and then we actually put all those pieces together. The funny thing is, most people don't realize how much effort, time, and energy goes into creating that 2 minute video. You know, it's
mm,
meetings, it's filming, it's editing, it's changes, you know, and it all comes down to, you know, essentially a minute and a half to 2 minutes.
yeah. Yeah, well, I always, I'm a really keen photographer, and I always think of the still image and the amount of effort that, the amount of thought and preparation I put into taking a photo when I'm really consciously taking one, and then the amount of post production stuff that I work on. And then when you go to video where it's moving images and a whole sequence of images and a whole different sort of set of circumstances that you're perhaps trying to bring into a story, that sort of just kind of 1,000 times more complicated. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a process. I mean, especially, I mean, on the post production side, which is kind of the editing. So it's really putting all the elements together, getting the best sound bites for the narrative, choosing the best shots, you know, coloring it in a way that is the emotion, you know, sound design, music, and then refining, 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 refining. And then at that point, having the customer have an opportunity to look at it and then refining, refining, refining even more. So it's a pretty long process. And then in addition to that, you know, we do graphics and animation. So there's all these other elements, you know, to kind of put all those pieces together where it's a compelling story that ideally the client can use and leverage for their marketing for sometimes many years.
Hmm. Yeah, well, that's the power, isn't it? It becomes an asset that can be used if it's well produced and well researched in a way that it's timeless. It can be an asset for many years. Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had one client that I worked with personally like 12 years ago. Is one of my first clients called the Austin Shoe Hospital. They're kind of a manufacturing company and they own all these little shops around Austin to repair people's shoes and purses and stuff. And I went to their small little factory and created this video, and they still use it to this day. They've used it for commercials,
Yeah.
they use it for online marketing. They had such huge success with it. They had a 65% increase in call volume from that first video I created. We then created like 20 plus other videos, and they still use and leverage them, you know, to this day. So it's really powerful, and it just shows that like when it's done right, it can last a really long time.
Mm. Yeah. Well, you've been in the video game for a long time. So how have you seen the video marketing landscape evolve over that time that you've been involved?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on the video production side, it's changed quite a bit as far as equipment, gear, you know, getting more accessible, less expensive, and more dynamic as every day goes by. On the video marketing side, things are constantly shifting as far as what types and formats of video are going to be the most effective. So if you would have asked me that, you know, 5 years ago, my answer would be totally different today. You know, if your
Mm.
strategy is social media, right? So 5 years ago, it would have been just put video on social media. You need to do something. But now
Yeah.
it's like vertical format, short form, really, really, you know, fast cuts to get people's attention, constantly testing different variables and different angles to see what is, connecting with your audience, not only on the video side, but also on, the what the action button is, what the headline is, what the copy is. And that's the way to really be successful with video marketing. Is that very specific example with social media is just constantly
Mm,
testing and finding out what really is resonating with your audience in a format and style that's going to be consistent with the platform.
yeah, it's interesting. The vertical format is because of mobile phones.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think
Mm,
TikTok really blew up with the vertical format, because, most people are doing it. They're doing their own videos themselves. It's a lot easier to hold your phone like this and
okay,
record
yeah,
video.
yeah.
And plus, it provides a much more immersive, personal feel to it when people are viewing it. So a lot of the videos you'll see is like, TikTok, social videos, that is, TikTok is vertical. They've kind of really pioneered that. And then Instagram had to follow them with vertical videos. And then YouTube Shorts kind of, did, more or less the same thing. It's really optimized for
Mm,
mobile. The vast majority of the content we'll create is the traditional 16:9, or in some situations, we'll do a cinematic, which is an ultra widescreen, for like bigger brands that want a very cinematic,
mm,
brand story video.
yeah. I maybe this is age related or generation related, but I tend to ignore all those shorts. I kind of think that's all advertising, and I mean I spend a lot of time on YouTube and quite a bit of time
Yeah.
on Instagram as well, looking at things that are of interest and things that I can learn from. But I tend I find myself just skipping over the vertical format ones and the shorts because I think, well, there's nothing in there for me, and I look at the longer version form. So it's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. I think I'm in the same camp as you. My social media, my personal social media of choice is YouTube. And I usually will listen to marketing content or stuff on Tesla. And it's all long form, you know,
Mm,
relatively longer form, which is considered now like over 5 minutes. But I'll listen to
yeah.
sometimes, an hour long video in more of a podcast style where I'm listening to it. I'll do that well before I would do anything with short content. On the flip side, my kids love TikTok. They love YouTube
Yeah.
Shorts. They love Instagram, videos, and that's where like they're at. My big
Mm,
thing with it is, too much of that is a little over stimulus for me personally.
mm,
But from a marketing perspective, I have to take up my personal hat. From a marketing perspective,
yeah.
we'll create content like that for clients, and that's why we're testing things like, because you're competing with so much other stuff online, like cat videos and funny dogs and people doing crazy quirky things, so brands are trying to find their footing in a way that connects with the audience in a more authentic kind of native style on social media,
Mm,
um, and is going to help provide value to the person watching it, ideally if they click on it and are interested. So
mm,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I guess it comes back to if you put your marketing hat on, understanding who your audience is, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Mm,
mean, on the long form side, it's just a little bit different strategy, right? So, like, if I listen to a long form video, on in more of a podcast style on YouTube, because I know the people, if they're selling something, I'm going to be way more prone to buy from them because of that, because I love the content that they're putting out. I love the value that they're putting out. So, if they're promoting something, I'm going to be very highly likely to purchase
mm,
it, opposed to just skimming through and then finding something randomly. So I think there's value in both camps, but I'm definitely more like you. I prefer personally
mm.
listen to kind of longer form content when it comes to social media.
Yeah. Yeah. I certainly agree with you in terms of, particularly if it's a high ticket item.
Hmm.
Um, I believe that you need to build some sort of relationship
Hmm.
with the potential buyer first and win trust. And I think the use of video to educate people about what are the issues, what are the problems related to this um,
Hmm.
this area that your high ticket item can transform them. Give them a little bit, give them some education, let them get to experience what it would be like working with you if that's what the high ticket item is. I think that can work really well. And video is very powerful there because you actually get to experience the person you're going to be working with um, almost live.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Now, there's been a lot happening in the realm of AI related to video. So, talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing there. What are some of the exciting things that you see? What are some of the risks?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of exciting things on the horizon. Some of them we'll be able to use and leverage to speed up the editing process. There's some really cool tools out there that can grab sound bites or edit multi cameras almost instantly. There's other really cool tools where you literally could just record yourself talking, and then it'll create an avatar of you, and then you just type something, and all of a sudden you're saying things that you never actually said. You've just typed them out.
Yeah.
And obviously, there's really cool things that Chat GPT is doing on the video side of things, in the future, where you just prompt something and it'll create like a photorealistic, scene. I think right now they're not everything that I've mentioned isn't fully fleshed out. I think there's still some work to be done, but they are. But it's only a matter of time before this stuff gets more refined and better and better. I've tried stuff where you can create your own avatar and it voices things for you, and the voice sounds really tinny. The movements aren't there, but it's also really impressive, and it's going to continue to get better and better over time. I think the challenge for not necessarily us, because a lot of stuff that we do is like in person. So we're filming, a business at their location with their customers, their, staff. So it's a little bit different dynamic, but I think it's going to be challenging on the filming side, like people that actually are in the film industry where they're creating big, huge movies. And some of the prompting is getting so powerful that you could basically prompt a shot by shot, movie in anything that you're visualizing in your mind. If you have a good script and you can articulate the vision, people will be able to create, essentially cinematic movies that would take usually 2 years and hundreds of people, more or less with a small crew with next to nothing budget. And that's where I see kind of the trend going on more of the film and movie side of things. And I think that'll bring a new breed of content out there. And it will give people that really have always wanted to create a movie or a video the ability to do that. And then it will just be a matter of, how can you market this in a compelling way that will get the eyeballs on the people that would have the highest level of interest in it. Yeah.
Fascinating. Yeah, there's certainly some exciting stuff on the horizon, and the the creating your own avatar, that's one that excites me. And we had Jill Schiffelbein on the
Mhm.
podcast a while ago, and she actually demoed one of these products that
Yeah.
is very impressive to the extent that not only can you type in um, some completely different stuff into your avatar that then says that on video, you can do it in multiple languages. Like you can do it
Yeah.
in languages that you know zero words of, and there you'll be. And the languages that I know, um, in the demo I saw, they were absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
mind blowing.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, I look at that technology like what an opportunity for content creators to do that.
Mm,
It's so challenging to just, being podcasting where it's like you want to create some content, then you got to get your camera out, you got to get the audio, you got to do it, you got to do multiple takes. So and you have to write the script to start with. A lot of people, that are big YouTubers are reading off teleprompters because they've carefully crafted all of their words.
mm,
And just imagine being able to just go from script to post production right away and just skip the
mm,
production side. So that's going to be really powerful. I also think it's going to be really powerful for educators, people that want to
yeah.
create educational content where they'll, post it on Udemy or like LinkedIn Learning, those type of platforms where historically you'd need like a huge studio, you'd need scripts, you'd need this huge massive crew. And we do that for some people, but like I think it's going to empower more and more creators and more educators to get online and do it in a more cost effective
Mm,
way, which really is going to benefit a lot of people because it's going to make more education from a diverse background of people that have different perspectives and that could teach all these different areas that you never would have thought of and give you a different perspective on that content. And I think that's going to be really, really powerful.
mm. Yeah, yeah. There's a couple of really good examples there. The other one that we talked about in that episode was, for example, the CEO of a larger company giving a weekly update to the employees. So
Mhm. Yeah.
rather than doing this big production and a whole lot of time, basically writes out the weekly update, the key
Yeah.
points, the highlights, scripts that out. Somebody types it into the avatar, and that's published as a video for all employees to see.
Yeah. And that's fantastic. I think that's
Hmm.
really streamlines the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Now, one of the things we haven't talked about, we've talked about creativity a lot, we've talked about technology a lot, but they're obviously closely intertwined. How has your approach changed with kind of evolving technology? Has there been a radical shift, or have you just sort of kind of evolved things as you've gone along?
Well, we've always kind of evolved things as we've gone along. So when I originally started, on the technology and the equipment side, DSLRs were just kind of coming out, and now it's kind of shifted to more mirrorless style cameras, and cinema cameras have gotten cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So that's, you know, I, so that's one example. Same thing with gimbals. When I first started off, it was a manual thing that you had to really balance,
Hmm.
and only a few people that could do it really, really well. And now it's like it's motorized, so you could get really smooth, silky shots pretty easily. And drones were just starting, when I started off, and now it's like you can pick one up for a couple $100 and start flying it in 5 minutes and just get beautiful cinematic shots. So equipment is continued to get technology has continued to get less expensive. Equipment continues to get better and better and less expensive. And we're always on the cusp of that. It's like every week my team is coming to me about a new thing they want to get or a new tool that is going to help us get better shots and stuff. So there's always new things that are coming out to make things better. And that's really, really exciting. So we're always on the forefront of that and looking at, what are the next things that are going to help us tell a story in a better way. And then also on the post-production side, we really try to do the same thing. What trends in editing are going to really kind of make the video more unique? Is it transitions? Is it color grading? Is it framing? What styles are out that we can kind of look for or pioneer that will make the video more unique and stand out? So one of the things that we've been doing with a lot of our clients is this what's called an FPV drone. So it's a combination. We do both filming and creative editing with it. So the filming side, basically, it's where you wear goggles and you fly the drone very manually. So instead of it having all these sensors, it's this small little drone like this big, and you can fly it in and out of windows. We've gone underneath chairs. We've gone like underneath a garage door as it's closing, and it creates a really unique perspective that most people aren't used to seeing, a drone flying in and out of a house. And then creatively editing will speed things up, will slow things down, will add different sound design to it so people feel like they're there kind of flying through the space. So that's really a combination of utilizing technology on the production side and on the post-production side that we really are always looking for to help our clients stand out in the sea of video content and content out there in general.
Hmm. Hmm. That sounds pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's fun
Um,
stuff.
yeah, yeah. All right. Now, for someone kind of just thinking about getting started in video marketing, what advice would you have for them?
Yeah, well, I think the best thing if you're thinking about video, but you don't know where to start, and you have a company or you're in charge of a marketing team, um, I actually created a really good tool. It's at mosaicmediafilms.com/resources. It's like a 30-second quiz that basically asks you, are you a B2B? Are you a B2C? Do you sell products or services? And then what type of marketing do you do? And that really is the foundation. Once you do that quiz, it will give you answers into here's some general recommendations, things you should be thinking about. So, what types of videos you should be thinking about, and then understanding what those videos are, and then understanding how to use and leverage them in your whether your sales funnel or your marketing. So, the answers are contingent on the type of business you have, if
Mm.
you sell products or services, and then what is your primary source of traffic? You know, is it pay-per-click, social media, sales meetings, one-to-one, email marketing? And then based on that, it'll say, okay, if that's the criteria, here's the videos you need, and here's the marketing strategy that you should use. And that's a good way to start. Before you start, talking to production companies, you at least want to have a good understanding of what types of videos do we really need to be thinking about, and then how we're going to use and leverage these more importantly with our
Mm.
marketing strategy. And that's probably the best way to go.
Excellent. All right. And we'll include that link in the show notes, of course. I think that's great that you emphasize not just here's the things to consider based on what sort of marketing you do and what sort of business you are and who the ideal client is, but what are you going to do with those videos? Because it's
Yeah.
nice to have great videos with drones flying underneath chairs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That looks really cool.
Yeah.
But they need to do something, right? You sort of
Mhm.
putting a
Yeah.
lot of time and effort and
Yep.
possibly money into producing that video. What are you going to do with it? How's it going to return on that investment?
Hmm. Absolutely.
Hmm.
That's the most important component. That's why I always like I said earlier, you got to start with the end in mind.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful. All right. Well, this has been fabulous, Mark, but I'm just aware of the time. So I think it's a good point now to move on to the buzz, our innovation round. It's the same 5 questions I ask of every guest. And the idea is you'll give us some really snappy answers that'll inspire the listener to go and do something awesome as a result today.
Sounds fantastic. Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. So, what's the number one thing anyone needs to do to be more innovative?
Constantly be learning. Long form YouTube
Yeah.
content.
Yeah, long form YouTube. Love it. Yeah, and I think not just in video marketing, but sort of across the board,
Hmm.
things are changing so rapidly, right? And if you're not keeping up with some of it, you're sort of going to be left right behind.
Absolutely.
Hmm. All right, what's the best thing you've done to develop new ideas?
The best thing I've done is just kind of collaborating with other business owners. I'm in a couple business groups. So, really, I think collaboration, finding out what other people are doing, where they're innovating. And then again, going back to what I said earlier, just researching and looking into stuff, taking time to learn a new subject matter and just incrementally get better. That one of the things I'm doing now is learning a lot on conversion rate optimization. So I could take that knowledge
Mhm.
and kind of share that with clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And that comes back to what we were saying earlier that
Mhm.
it's not enough to have that fabulous video, but what are you going to do with it? How are you going to use it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly.
Yeah. All right. What's a favorite resource you use most often?
Boy, Audible. I would say Audible is probably one of my favorites. I have a membership on Audible, so if I'm at the gym or I'm in the car, I'm always listening to some book, whether it's personal
Mm,
development like Atomic Habits, or it's the most recent business book that catches my eye.
mm. Yeah, I'm a subscriber to Audible as well, and I'm a big fan of Atomic Habits. So,
Yeah,
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 we
that's
have
great.
that in common. Yeah, yeah. All right. What's the best way to keep a project on track?
Processes. So one of my actual passions is processes. So I love having the systems and the processes in the organization. And one of our core values is constant communication, both with each other internally as a team and to our clients. So if we follow the process and we communicate with each other and our client, things stay on track.
Hmm. Yeah, it's wonderful. I love that, and I'm sure I know. I mean, I have some really standard processes, and I have checklists that I work through when
Mhm.
I do post production of the podcasts. And I imagine you've probably got the same sort of thing for the videos. And uh, because of the complexity of these things, unless you have that checklist or a standard process, the operating procedure that you're going through, things are just going to get forgotten.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be a mess
Mm.
when it's not done. And sometimes I'll have I'll sometimes interject in something, like I'll show up to a shoot or I'll dive into, a certain part of the revision process. And like everyone on the staff is just like, Mark, just let us do our thing. We got it. We got it. SOP, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm
Yeah.
messing things up. You guys do your thing. I'll get out of the way. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I
yeah.
love it. Excellent. All right. And finally, in the buzz round, what's the number one thing anyone can do to differentiate themselves?
I think articulate it really well through your marketing materials. Be very, very consistent with it, and find out really what the main problem or challenge that your customer has, and do that really, really well. And that becomes the point of differentiator, because most people in the industries don't don't do that. They're not doing what the customer really, really wants. They talk too much on
Mm.
technicals and not enough on what is the actual thing you're giving them. Like they say, when you sell a drill, you're not selling the drill, you're selling the
Mm.
hole, right? That's the same concept of, you want to sell
Yeah.
and articulate your unique selling proposition based on what the customer really wants.
Yeah. Yeah. And I heard a little while back because that the drill and hole, and I don't know who first coined that phrase, but I heard a variation of that recently where they're talking about, well, it's not the drill, it's not even the hole. What's the hole for? Because
Yeah.
the hole might be to hang up a picture on the wall. The
Yeah.
hole might be to run an electrical conduit. The hole might be to um, run a water pipe. So and then why are you hanging the picture up on the wall? Why are you running the electrical conduit? Why are
Yeah.
you running the water pipe? And so then it boils down to, well, here's what I actually want to do,
Yeah.
and yes, I need the drill for this part of it. And if somebody's saying, well, I've got this fabulous drill, diamond tip bit, and all this sort of stuff, well, the person's going to just zone out, aren't they?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well said. Well said. Just going
Mm,
a couple layers deep.
mm.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thanks for getting us through the buzz round, Mark. Now, this has
Yeah.
been a fabulous conversation. Really enjoyed it. Where can people find out more about you and about Mosaic Media Films and the work you do, and maybe even get in touch and say thanks for what you've shared today?
Yeah, absolutely. Just go to mosaicmediafilms.com and you'll be able to see all of our work, get in touch with us. And like we mentioned earlier, some great free resources if you're thinking about video and don't know where to start.
Yeah, excellent. And as I say, we'll have that link and the earlier one in the show notes, of course, for people to click straight through. So, finally, Mark, as we wrap it up, what action would you like our listener to take out of our conversation today?
I think, if you're thinking about video and don't know where to start, a great place is the website, but also really try to look at your marketing materials and think about how video can be used and leveraged to help, articulate what you do as you kind of help customers in their transformational story. I think that's the most powerful thing, is like understanding that it's not your story, it's your customer
Mm,
story and how you're helping them through that transformational change. So whether you do that in the form of video or whether you do that in the form of changing copy on your website, I think that's going to be incredibly powerful.
yeah, that's fantastic advice. So, really look at things through the eyes of the customer, and even if you're telling the story, and we talked earlier about case studies, it's
Mhm.
more about, well, what's the transformation that my customer is looking for, and how
Yeah.
can I how can I make that visible? So
Mhm.
fantastic.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Thanks so much, Mark. I've really enjoyed the conversation today. All the best for the future. Thanks for being on the show, and let's stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.